Right, we're going to jump right into this video and we're going to get going with it pretty quick like you'd cook a meal. You know that a lot of people cook meals and a lot of people get on and do makeup tutorials and everything else. Well, this one today, folks, is not just for you, it's for me. Let me get this set up here. I just got this phone and I'm waiting for my case, so it's like sliding around like butter, but it will be here today, my new case. So, I was just getting up this morning, put a little makeup on. I got a lot going on, a lot to do. I think I put off one more day of color in my hair because it's wonderful and lovely to get in the reservoir, swim, and different things, and color your hair. You know, I just go back and forth with that. I go back and forth with several things because variety is the spice of life. So anyway, let's just jump right off into why I've come on here today. I have come on here today, folks. I'm going to do a little spray here because I got to kind of stay real and move. You know, a lot of people can execute. I like that name, but I don't like it because it's got so many different meanings. Like the word committed. Have you ever noticed those words kind of got a... Anyway, let's jump in this. Miss Cool's had plenty of rest. I'm ready to go today. Tackled many things emotionally, physically, spiritually. Come on, let's go. So I'm coming on here today specifically to talk about your name, okay? What is a name, okay? A name is something that you have a birthright to, okay? A birthright is very, very important. A DNA, these are the obvious things before I jump off into the personal things people do, have done in my experience. So, you always want to have a name, not only for a gravestone, a family tree, who you are. I'm living here in Utah. It's one of the biggest states for genealogy, which I've had done by a lady that was fantastically unbelievable. Spiritually, she got in. I've said before, 4 or 5 grandmas. Found out my mother was named after another Pauline, her mother's mother. Found out a lot of beautiful things that is different than just doing your DNA with the swab and stuff. She just really went to all the grave markers, Poland, my grandmother, just beautiful, beautiful. And what's beautiful about that is, let me tell you what, the beauty in that is you'll find that your similarities are exactly like your DNA, your print, your bloodline, and it's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. Okay, it might not be beautiful if you found out somebody you didn't like, but that's another story. Let's focus on names this morning. All right, so we're going to jump right off into when a person gets married, okay? When a person gets married, okay, and already has a child, and the child has the mother's maiden name, okay? This happened to me, okay? So if something's happened to me, I have the right and the experience to say I can talk about it, okay? So... moving right in here in the kitchen. I was very young when I had my firstborn child, my son. Unfortunately, but wonderfully, I never had a father to, guide me through things. Now, he was there, but we'll get into that later. So back to the names. I was very young. My brother is a United States Marine, and a tough one at that. Okay, he's got a lot of great qualities, even though we have issues with spiritual matters and who Christ is, who God is, blah, 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 the Torah, the New Testament, Old Testament, Isaiah 54. I can go on. I don't want to. I'm not going to waste my energy on that right now. Because what I want to talk to you is having a baby young and him standing in the maternity room as a young girl. How old was I? I'll tell you. I was 15. Yeah. I'll let you know also that... because a person has a child young doesn't mean that they had sex with the whole football field and the whole football team. People can twist it. People can make fun of you while they've had birth control, and even at the point these days of those little microchips put in their upper arms so they can't get pregnant. So that's like a green light to have sex with the whole football team, should we say. Now, you can look at it negatively, but I'm talking from my experience. Remember that. When Miss Cool comes on here, I'm talking about my experience. So you're going to probably get a little bit of a dose of the negative, a dose of the positive, a dose of the middle, and then you get to decide, but it's my story. Okay? So anyway, when I was young, I kept my baby, didn't have an abortion. I was young. I experienced mother's homes, beautiful ones. Okay? One ran by a black lady named Inez. I grew up like that. She taught us how to clean, cook, make sure your bed's made, and well, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful lady in a mansion in West LA. In fact, it was by La Brea Avenue and the City of Angels, Los Angeles. And so I was there on Wilshire Boulevard, West Los Angeles. There's a lot of money over there, right? We were in a mansion that had purple carpet and stairs spiraling all the way up. And us girls, there was about 5 of us, had each room. Anyway, I was there with 4 black girls, 1 Mexican girl, and then there was Miss Cool. All right, so anyway, like I said, that's another story. But it's not, because a name is a name. So for you mothers out there that didn't have a husband, didn't have a father with you for your child, typically people are ashamed to give the child their name. Isn't that sad? Oh, so my brother stood there and said that I had to put pick my last name on the birth certificate. Well, if you know my brother, you're not going to argue with him. You're going to say yes, sir. And so I did it. So it was beautiful. Christopher Matthew Pick. I let my mother, practically, she did name my son because her story, being Jewish and going to a Catholic school to be a registered nurse, and that is just, it's going in my book. There's some hilarious stories my mother told me about knocking over these Mother Mary statues and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, apparently she was a registered nurse at 17 years old and was with my father in World War II in a hospital and met him. There's another story, too, that she really loved a man named Leroy, but he died and he was a pilot. So I remember my mother's stories vividly, which you should, because not every story an older person tells you could be a lie. It could be amazing, beautiful, wonderful, and help you know the road and the map that she walked. So back to the names. I named my son my name, which was okay, and of course it was my brother's name. But what comes with that is shame, because it's an openness to there's no dad there. You didn't put the dad's name down. You are stamped illegitimate. He could be a bastard from the 50s, they called it. So right away, you right away, and not to mention when you got pregnant, maybe it was one time, maybe it was twice, maybe you were running from school buses that were laughing and making fun of you because you can't hide a stomach unless you kill the baby and have an abortion. And so as my story goes on, and I'm not ashamed to come on here and say it because somebody needs to know. Okay? Remember, I'm going to always say, every time a person dies, another book burns. They didn't tell their story. And you know what? You're probably thinking, some of you, well, who cares? Well, I care. Is that okay? So anyway, names. Let's get back to the names. So in this lifetime, you have people that are born that are not married. So when they're not married, they have the choice in that maternity hospital when the little baby's laying there, kind of like Moses in the river with the Israel blanket colors, and he was found, but later found out that he was Jewish, not from Egypt, but the ladies took care of him and loved him and raised him. but he had a birthright. And a birthright's important, and so is a name. But what's more important is truthful family members that let people know just what's going on and who your pa and daddy is without the shame. So anyway, you see it all the time, kids that are adopted, and it is beautiful. And my mother did say you don't have to be a mother to go in the delivery room. I totally believe that. But guess what? There's a lot more that goes in the pot that's cooking. So you meet people, okay, that get married. They have a last name. They take the last name. Okay, why do they take the last name? Well, because they want to be a family, right? Well, the mom and the dad and the 5 children, like me, okay, and my brothers and my sister, we all have the same last name because my mother and father were married, okay? So we all share the same last name. We're all from the same mother and father. That's really good, right? There's no shame in that like the old days, okay? So here we go with another story, because my mother told me that, because being that my mother was Jewish and her mother and father were both Jewish. This is a bloodline. My mother told me, and it was so funny. She goes, yeah, we were sitting at the table at a Passover meal, and yes, my mother and father offered your father money to not marry me because they didn't want to mix the blood, right? Which I'm sure people know. There's arranged marriages and different things too. But I just want to jump off and tell you that this happens in families, no matter what culture or anything. There's a lot of fathers that pick out men for their daughters. But back to the name. Anyway, my dad did leave the Passover meal, and my mother, I guess, ran out crying and caught up with him, and they loved each other, and they had 5 children, and I'm the baby. The baby that is not a baby. I had to grow up real fast having a baby, being a baby. But I was a wonderful mother. I sure was. Better than some of the old moms. But the name. So when you're married, you take on this name, okay? Now, I'm not talking common law, okay? Because you get these people that want to take the shortcut. We're common law. We've been together a long time, so that means we're married. Well, it might to you, but it isn't to me, okay? A marriage is when you stand before God, you share the same name, or do anything you want to do, okay? But you are sharing the same last name. Why? Here we go. Are you ready? Drum roll. Some people don't believe in God and some people don't believe in the Bible. So they actually think that their name doesn't need to mesh with a man's name, though the Bible says that God created a woman for a man's pleasure. Now, you got a choice to believe that or not, because it can go the other way. A woman needs a man for her pleasure. But speaking on names now, a man is God. So if you meet people that don't believe in the Bible, don't believe in God, then they're right away going to say, well, this is my name. And whether I'm a man or a woman or my gender, I'm keeping my name, but I do want to get married. And they could get married for tax reasons, for maybe saying we are married and pretending that, these things matter, don't cheat on me, or I don't know. There's a lot of things that I believe that could be beautiful not married. It's a piece of paper, like people say. You got Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, man. They are so beautiful and cool, and they've made it a long time and blah, blah, blah. It's an individual choice. I'm talking right now about names, okay? So anyway, a name is a name. And when I was married to my daughter's father, okay, I gave my son that name. Why did I give him that name? Because I was married to my daughter's father and I was pregnant. Okay? When you're pregnant and you marry somebody, that really has an effect on a name. Okay? And it's up to the person to say, well, it's my stepdad. He adopted me. Just be honest with your children. A lot of people don't understand in families that a name is important, and they try to get in there and they try to mess it up. Okay, there's people in my family that have had children, and they give them their maiden name. Okay, and a maiden name is they weren't married. Okay, they weren't married, so they don't share that name. What I'm telling somebody out there today is check your birth certificate. How old were you when your mother let the man in her life, okay, put his name on a birth certificate? It's very important. It actually is very important, you guys. Because when a person puts another man's name on your birth certificate, you might want to check that, okay? Because, and then see how old you were when they did that, okay? Now, as far as adopted children goes, that's beautiful. We have, I'm going to jump around here, okay? There were slaves that didn't have names, okay? You know, the slaves that didn't have names took on the white man's name, Cotton or whatever his name was. But that's another story, and it's a beautiful story because people need to know and hear about it without all this shame and rejection and, oh my gosh, it's like this stigmatism. You know, people got a stigmatism. And you know what? When you got a stigmatism, you can't be fair. When you got a stigmatism, you know what happens? You're like a tree that can't even bend. You're bitter. You're you know, if something moves on it, you know, it cracks, it splinters. Bend with it. Understand and be open to new things. So back to the name, when you're married and you come into marriage like a Brady Bunch. So everybody knows that, the Brady Bunch. So they came together. Now, I don't personally know about their names. I don't care. I'm just coming on here talking to people about their names. So back to the married woman that has issues with never giving her name up. It's happened in my family. Trust me. And I'm not going to come on here and say names, but I will let you know that not only my family, it could be your family. So you'll look for them on Facebook, and they're not going by their married name because they've got to keep their maiden name. Now, for Miss Cool, that's weird because you got MISS, which is a single woman. You got MRS for Mr. Da-da-da-da-da. And you have, you know, things like that. Some people, I've met many people that are divorced and they don't even use their maiden name. Okay, for Miss Cool, when I got my divorce, you bet I went back to my maiden name. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There were 13 letters in my marriage name. You don't think I got tired of writing that? So I went back to the 4 letters, and, you know, it's okay. There's a story for everything, but this name thing and genealogy and DNA and birthrights, you have the right to know where you're from, your family tree, your DNA. And if someone's hid that from you, shame on you. Shame on you. Of course, you tell them at a certain age. I mean, good Lord. You wouldn't want to eat a banana that's completely green. But, you know, people and time and places, it becomes a lifestyle. They're like, they think that it's okay. They make choices for other people. When somebody is of age, that choice isn't yours anymore. That choice belongs to the person, okay? I love these. It's a show on television that reunites children with their parents that have been searching for their parents for years and years and years. And they really have experts that get in there and actually find these lost children's parents, and they put them in a beautiful room and they knock on the door and they meet them and they hug them before they go in. Some of it's good. For the most part, it's been very touching, but of course they probably, you know, go through the videos and want to put up the good ones because not everybody's story is like that. I mean, you got a lot of parents out there that want to reconnect with their children and they want a trophy for a race they never ran. So we got to go with that as well. So back to the names. If you have a name that wasn't your mother's because she never was wed, she didn't get married, and you're carrying a name from someone that was also not carrying their father's name, sometimes the real fathers got a lot to say. You didn't put my name on the birth certificate. You did this wrong and you did that wrong, but they never were there. So what you do is you help a person. Maybe you go get a birth certificate. Maybe you lead them in the right direction. Maybe you answer questions if they ask. But after they ask, be ready for the negative. A lot of people don't like you talking about last names. A lot of people don't like it if you get divorced and they're still using their married name. A lot of people don't like it if you're coming on talking about a family tree or names, or because they right away think, what business is it of yours? Well, it is my business. A name is important. And back to this marriage thing for Miss Cool. I went through a time in my life where I thought, what's up with the marriage paper? Can't we just stand on a mountaintop and say, I love you, and a whole bunch of birds come down and put their feet on the paper? That's the notary public for me. You know, and we could just be together in the rain and love each other and run. Unfortunately, the world says different. Unfortunately, the Bible says marriage is a wonderful thing. But back to the word commitment. Commit. Are you willing to? Are you willing to know that marriage is beautiful, sweet, and wonderful? And that when two bodies become together, they become one. And that means sexually. And that it's beautiful to recreate and make children. And if you can't recreate and make children, you still have something very beautiful and beautiful. But to understand one another. And as I close this video, I say, check your birthright. Check what your name means. Check and see if your father was adopted, or if your mother was young and wasn't married and she gave you her maiden name and then later changed that name to someone else's name. It's a beautiful thing to be adopted. Now I'm going to jump off into the spiritual realm. Did you know the King of Kings adopted me? That my name means absolutely nothing on this earth? And that Miss Cool has a Father in heaven that never sleeps. He's a spirit that loves me, and I have the freedom and choice to believe it or not. I believe it. And you are special. You are loved. You have the right to choose your name even. I've met people that even changed their first name. I've always liked the name Paige. I've always liked the name Penelope. I stuck with the P's. And before I get off, my dumb father, I can say dumb, because my initials are Pamela Pick. You say it. Pee-pee? Would you have given somebody the initials of that? But I get the choice of throwing the middle initial in. So that's cool. But names are important, just like for pets. You know, I had an old boyfriend that said, if you really love your pets, you'll give them a middle name. You know, so let's think about our name today, where we're from. Are you proud to be with your husband and take on his name? Does it make you feel good to write M.R.S., Mr.? Or are you trying to slide back into, well, I got one foot being married and I've got the other foot being single, and on Facebook and the internet, why, I'm just going to come off and say, this is my name, when everybody knows it's not. I would look at it as disrespectful, but that's okay too, because you have to understand, someone is throwing you some seasoning of who they are. Okay, so if you know someone's married and they're not using their married name, then you're like, wow, that's kind of sad, because they'll come up with every excuse. They didn't want to change their name, or they didn't want to go down to Social Security and change their name on their Social Security card, or they didn't want to go to the driver's license place and they didn't want to change that as well. They're just going to sit in what they want to sit. Some people are married their whole life, but they've never been with their wife or husband. They can't go down and get divorced. These are choices people make, but a name's important. And may the Lord bless you. If you have a mother that was young and she gave you her married name and then your name changed, you might want to check it out and have a wonderful day. You have a birthright. It's Miss Cool saying, peace.